on YouTube. Yeah, I'm live on YouTube. Go me. I can do technology. Look at that. Beautiful. Now, I'm just going to flick over to some of these comment sections quickly, and then I can do my intro. What's up, guys? My name is Chris from Vo-Gus Prospecting. If you're new to this channel, a big warm welcome. And if you're a multi-hat like the one I'm not wearing, welcome back. This is a live stream, so it comes automatically with a disclaimer. We may have technical issues. We may have puppy issues that I will have to stop for and kill the stream early. I do apologize if that happens. If you're watching this in the future, this is a live stream about questions and answers not only on gold mining but Vo-Gus prospecting and things that you may want to know. And you do that by jumping in the live chat both on Facebook and YouTube, and you can type me out a question and I will do my absolute best to answer it. So get typing with your questions. Now, I might miss it. This is going live on 2 different platforms at the same time. I have to flick between the 2. I don't have a moderator with me today. Where's Trevor? I need my moderator. So if I do miss a question of yours, please don't take it as I've slighted you. It's just that I missed it because it scrolls up very, very fast sometimes. Now, on that note, if you do see a question that you can answer for someone that comes up, please do so. And that way they will get their answer and I don't have to accidentally miss it. And we'll just start jumping straight into it. Who have we got here? We've got heaps of people. Tom, Steph, Colin, Chris, Ecopane, what a name. We got oh my god, I'm not even going to try and read out all the names. There's literally tons of people right here. What is going on, everyone? Let's get straight. Oh, Trevor is here and he's still got his little screwdriver. Hell yeah, Trevor, you're on moderation duties. If people come in here and start causing stuff, you have my permission to throw them out. All right, I'm going to flick over to Facebook. I'm going to have a quick read of some of these questions. Yeah, Phil. Okay, Phil's got one on Facebook that has been asked to me a lot. How Paulie is going. Paulie is going pretty good, all considering. I think he got a very big scare, and that is to be expected when you almost drown. That it was a pretty terrible thing to have happen, but he is okay. That was a very fancy noise coming out of my computer that I've never heard before. So yeah, Paulie is all right. I've had chats with him. He's had chats with other people. He's got a really good support system. What is that noise? Holy crap. Is that people sending me stars? Robin Porter, thank you very much for 145 stars. I am just wondering if that's what's making that noise. Yeah, and Jeremy, 150 stars. Thank you very much. I'm going to mute my computer, my speakers, so that doesn't happen again. Hopefully it doesn't muck around with the volume. Like I said, this is a live stream. This is not polished Vo-Gus prospecting. So yeah, back to the original question. Paulie's okay. He's doing his best. He's working through everything he needs to work through, but he's traveling good considering what has happened. And it's also important to just give people who are in public eyes like this, like we are, a little bit of space if something like that happens, because it can get overwhelming when people like constantly barrage you with like reliving the event. It's quite difficult. So just give him a little bit of space. Just treat him normally. He's Paulie. He's all right. Just give him a bit of normal. Kevin Hopkins, I'm probably going to divide the chat off here. Does pineapple go on pizza? I firmly believe it does. Your opinion may differ. All right, we're going to keep going down. We're looking for questions. Oh, yeah, Chris looks like I have 2 black eyes. No, I have a heart condition. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I actually have a heart condition, and it makes my eyes go black when it starts playing up. It's been playing up real bad the last day or so, hence why I have been very quiet. William, how old was I when I first went to the Goldfields? My dad was prospecting for golds back in the 70s, and I used to do it as a kid out there with him and mum and whatnot a little bit. I remember dabbling in the creeks. So yeah, very young. I don't know the age, but very, very young. And William Woodford, yes, I do not send out friend requests. I've had a lot of clone Facebook accounts and YouTube accounts created. So they copy my content, they copy all my stuff, and then they put on pretend to be me to get your credit card details. I never send out friend requests. Don't accept them. Don't follow links. Don't do any of that sort of stuff. Robert, what pan do you recommend for an old man who can't see fly poop? Here's a suggestion that I think would work for a lot of people in your bucket. if you're of an older generation, hey, Fernie, she's got a pig. That's what that noise is. If you're of an older generation or you're physically limited in your ability to get out there and prospect properly, told you puppy problems might happen. Your main goal should be to create as many concentrates as you can, so when you get home you can then extract the gold. There's no point wasting your time on trying to pan down the gold to just the gold in the creek. Fern, hey, yeah, no. I don't know how bad that noise is, guys. If it's really bad, I do apologize. Sorry, pig. Thank you. This is pig. That's what's making the noise. Fern's down there. She's too big for me to lift up. I'm going to throw it in the hallway. There we go. Try that. So you should be trying to focus on collecting as much concentrate as you can. If you're limited to just panning, it doesn't matter what pan you buy. You just get it down to you got like a handful of concentrates, and then you tip it in a bucket and take it home, because it means that it allows you to get more pans done without having to worry about the gold. And then you can spend all the time you want cleaning it up at home. That's the number one rule. If you're trying to get lots of gold, forget about cleaning your gold in the creek. It is not worth it. So we've flicked over to YouTube. Let's have a look, see if we've got any questions here. I can't pronounce your name. Skoloki. Skoloki. Everything of coming to California doing an episode with Two Toes. Absolutely. I would love to, but coronavirus is not letting us do that. The Australian government's locked up the borders. So yeah, in the future, I'd love to get out to California. It's probably one of the number one places I've ever wanted to go. What's your favorite method of dry panning? By Mary Ruth. Floors? Man, dry panning is a really cool thing to do, but my area is wet probably 75 to 80% of the year, and I can only do it for a very short period of time in the hottest part of summer. And I like using either the Gold Claw pan, that is a really good dry panning pan, or the Garrett Super Sluice. Either of those two pans work really well, and I literally just get it and shake the crap out of it without using a friction base anymore. I used to put it on a log or a bucket and use the friction to help like vibrate the pan, but now if you just shake the crap out of it, it works. I'm actually making a video where I test dry panning losses, which I think will be a really interesting experiment. I think that'll show us how efficient it is. I mean, when you're dealing with dry dirt and no water, any gold you get is a bonus, right? So it doesn't matter how much you lose. If you lose 90% of it, you're still getting 10% where you couldn't have got any gold anyway. But I want to know what that loss rate actually is. Yeah, fair Banksy. My computer was making noises every time someone donated stars on my Facebook page, and I've never heard that noise before. I must have always had it muted. Graham McKenzie, fell timber. Trying to think what you're talking about. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. The same area, but not exactly there. Yeah, so there is. I'm getting my brain into gear because what are you talking about? Yes, there is gold mines near the BMX track in Wodonga. There's a Wodonga secret for you. There is gold mines up there. There's not heaps of gold. They were never terribly rich mines, but they are there. So you can pull gold out of that creek when it has water in it, which is a nice one just for the close proximity to town that a lot of people in my area don't know about. You can go there, but it's not. Again, it's not hugely rich gold. All right, we'll flick back over to Facebook for a little while because Facebook streams, like, I can't always go up. Man, heaps of people sent me stars. Robin Porter, Jeremy Gaffney, Spike McAlpine, Jess Lucan. Thank you so much for your donations. All those donations literally get reinvested back into the channel. That is how I do things like pay for my fuel and whatnot, which I'm doing about 1,200 kilometers a week of driving. So that's what that sort of stuff. Nigel Wyatt, Aubrey Wodonga was my hometown. Never knew there was gold deposits in that area. Have been to Tamora. out tomorrow now, all gold mining town. Yeah, Albury Wodonga. So Albury put up a bounty, a government bounty for anyone who could establish a gold field on the New South Wales side of the border within 30 kilometers or something of Albury. I can't remember exactly how far it was. And that's when they found the Black Range. And the Black Range has gold all through it. They actually have some pretty decent mines. And on the Vic side, we have Fell Timber, and we also have there's some out at the Weir. There was some small reefing areas out at the Weir. There's a lot of gold mining history here, but none of it was terribly, terribly rich. All right. Again, if I look like a stupid person with his mouth open just staring at it, it's because I'm reading. It's my reading face, damn it. Scrolling down. Okay, this is a good one. Doug, do you have any books or links that you recommend specifically for a guy who is just starting out? Yes. So as far as YouTubers go, Dan Hurd has probably the most extensive how-to collection of videos stretching back years for anything that you might want to know specifically. So like how to use a Miller table, or which pen is best, or hard rock stuff. He's got everything. He's a really good resource. Now, it's not all encompassing, so you will need to sort of supplement his information with other people's information. My channel mostly focuses on where to find gold. So like when you're out on the creek, what should you be looking for? So check out my videos for that sort of content. Shane, I feel, gives really, really good panning tutorials and instructions, because these pay dirt videos are very revealing just from watching. So if you want to learn how to pan properly and efficiently, watching him, that's just on YouTube. There are hundreds of other channels that I follow as well that all have very good information. So Alan's Gold Mining is one of my favorite ones. He's from Arizona, I believe, in the USA, and he does primarily like dry washing, and that incredibly smart guy. If you want to know stuff about dry washing, him and I Break for Bedrock, they're both really good channels. So that's sort of YouTube side of it. Again, plenty of other people as well. I could be here for hours talking about that. As far as it goes for resources on like where to find gold and whatnot, I always use old newspaper articles. They are usually stored within your governmental archives. So those archives are accessible online most of the time. And then you literally just Google like a town name and the word gold or gold mining next to it, and you'll start getting newspaper reports from like the 1800s or the early 1900s about what gold they were finding. They often relate back to names. So they'll say like the name of the mine. And then by today's standards, when you get on Google Maps, you can then usually find the gully in that area that's named after that mine, or the crusher or whatever it was. So that's the way I do it for finding spots to go. And then as far as riding equipment and whatnot, the best thing I can say to you is just don't be afraid to test and try. So set your sluice up, run dirt, test your tailing, see how much you're losing. Then think about why you might be losing it. Is it because you're running too much water over it? Is it too steep? And then change one of those factors and then retest. Just experiment, because you're your own best teacher. Reading and watching stuff online or reading books and whatnot is very important and very valuable, but it's not necessarily the way that you're going to learn best. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You technically can't ever lose any gold because you never had any gold when you started that day on the creek. So any gold you get is going to be in the positive, right? So don't worry about that. Experiment with your equipment. Experiment with your spots. That's one of the biggest things that a lot of people stuff up on, is that they forget that they could just, I don't know how to put this very politely. People go out to the creek and try, and they look in all the likely spots and say, I can't find any gold. And then I have to tell them to stop looking where they've been looking. Like, don't worry if it's the obvious spot. Forget that spot. Go try somewhere that you think is wrong, and give that a shot and see what happens. And more often than not, that's when it starts to click in that the experimentation part of it is critical, because that allows you to build your knowledge base. Otherwise, you'll just stagnate, and it's not helpful. Joel, what system do I use to first attack a new area? Really simple pan. All I take is a pan, bucket, shovel, snuffer bottle, and sometimes a yabby pump. And then you just sample buckets. And I always base it off a per bucket rate. So if I take a sample from an area, I'll put it in a bucket, fill it up, unclassified, run it, see what kind of gold's in that, and then make my extrapolations from that. So if it's for me in my area, I really want to be getting sort of like 30 specs or more per bucket of dirt for me to warrant continuing working in that area, unless the size of the pieces are pretty chunky and pretty good. So using a pan in my bucket and then just learning your area, it's all really important stuff. Man, what am I doing? All right, back over to YouTube. Have I ever done a day of prospecting, $30 to $5 on someone's property? No, not yet, because usually there's fences, so you know. Not yet. Fairbanksy, I use Filmora X for my editing software. And that has Filmora. Filmora is probably the best entry-level advanced editor you can get. So it combines sort of some of the really easy, practical stuff from like iMovie, and it also combines some of the really complicated stuff from Premiere Pro, and it mixes a really good mesh of them to where most people would be very happy with the results you get from that editor. It's because you're not a pro, right? Like you're not a pro editor needing to make a multi-million-dollar movie, so you don't need to learn how to use Premiere Pro, which will take you years. Ron, look, yeah, a lot of people asking if I want to come to America or Canada or whatever. Yes, the short answer is yes to pretty much every place. I want to go to France. France has mad gold. Frenchie, here's a really interesting thing. So Frenchie is asking, do I prefer sluicing or high banking, and what pan do I prefer? So we all know, have a drink. We all know that I love the Battea pan. It is the fastest and most accurate, and it's the fastest to process more dirt. So my cameraman Gadsy can keep up with me panning wise. He can do like a normal Mine Lab or Garrett Super Sluice size pan in the same time that I can do one Battea pan. The difference is I've got twice as much dirt as he does. So I can process twice as much as a regular pan with the Battea pan, and with less effort, like overall, or less concentration, and come out with heaps more gold. It's faster than river sluicing. It's really, really good, but it's more physical work because of the volume of dirt that you're moving. So I love the Battea pan. Every opportunity I can use it, I use it. There's no if, whats, or buts in my mind. If I have the opportunity to use it, that is what I'm using. As far as it comes to high banking and sluicing, as I said right at the start of the stream, I have a heart condition, and high banking has become very difficult for me over the last sort of 8 to 12 months. I've struggled physically with it just to be able to get all of the gear in, set up, and then you have to dig like a maniac and then pack down and pulled out. It damn near was killing me at the end. And so I sort of stopped using that for a while. I love high banking, but I think it's physically sort of out of my range at the moment. I've turned back to sluicing just with a river sluice, and I just run raw unclassified dirt straight through the gold rat, and that works beautifully. It is really, really good. So for now, I like the simplicity of a river sluice. It's way lighter, it's way easier, and I get pretty much just as much processing power in terms of my ability to dig. So it might take me 45 minutes to like hike everything in and set everything up, whereas a river sluice will take me a minute. I can just put it in the creek and then start shoveling straight away. So I gain extra time with the river sluice as compared to the high banker, and it's far less strain on the body. So, yeah. Whoa, okay, the comments just jumped huge on YouTube. Frankie on SBS in 144p. That's a name. Favorite cheese? Camembert. Yeah. Breakaway Brooks, yes, I've actually made a video on this. So they're asking, have you ever gone to an old timer area to scrape the Mellow from old dry creek beds? I made a video on that, and I believe I'm going to call this right. I can't remember. What did I call it? Was it Mellow or Pug? In the video, I called it either Mellow or Pug. I'm sure it was Mellow. Was it Pug? Oh, I'm not going to go down that story route because I can't remember the details accurately enough. But yes, it's worth doing. But it is also very hard work. It is very hard work. And you do miss out on a lot of the gold down and through different pay layers as you dig to the bedrock. So, yeah. Mark, yes, Levi is meant to be coming up in around June, I think he said, but it will highly depend on everyone's scheduling and everything. We have got it roughly planned that we will be meeting up and that we will be doing some collaboration videos. He's actually going to have to work for his gold. No half ounce sessions for Levi up here. Ooh, boy, he's going to be in for a rude awakening just how good his Goldfields are. I've been making fun of him for a while. I just got Daniel Kemp asked me a good one. Best gold detector under $1,500. I get this question all the time, and I've answered it on multiple live streams. But the short answer is, if you're specifically hunting gold and you only have $1,500, you buy a gold monster, and then you put $500 in an account for you to either buy an SDC, a 45, a 5,000, an 8,000, or a 7,000, or 6,000, or a 7,000. That's what you do. Because if you are purely just hunting gold and you're not interested in relics at all, the gold monster at that price is the best gold detector on the market at the moment for usability, user friendliness, and its capabilities. Now, there are other options like the ORX and whatnot, and they are all very, very capable. But I keep coming back to Minelab at the end of the day because they do make machines designed for Australian conditions, and these conditions are pretty unique compared to most of the other world when you look at things like mineralization in the ground. So that's my 2 cents on that. Vaguely sober. Greetings from Oregon. $9.99. Thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate that. Talk about simple thoughts. Talk about mullock heaps. Okay, well, here's something that a lot of people fail on mullock heaps with, is that there are two different types. There are hard rock and there are alluvial. And if you don't know the difference between the two, you must learn, because it's actually costing you, you're wasting time and energy and effort and all sorts of stuff by prospecting alluvial mullock heaps. Now, you'll see alluvial mullock heaps in areas like I've been working on my videos recently in terraced areas. So you'll see that they've come up and they've used water cannons or ground sluices to remove and erode the soils, the pay gravels, and they run it through sluice boxes. Well, there was an old dude standing off to the side of those sluice boxes, and he pulls gravel out and he puts it off to the side. And in the end of their little session of sluicing away the banks, there's usually a big pile of rock there. Now, that almost never contains gold. It'll almost always contain rubbish like nails and bits of scrap iron and stuff. People often detect them thinking they're going to find nuggets. I must be clear here. This is talking about areas like where I live, where it's not primarily a reefing area. It's primarily a sluicing area. And that that is mistaken for hard rock tailings by a lot of newcomers. So there's a big difference between them, because one's piled up with river gravel and the other one's piled up with sharp, broken bits of quartz and bedrock. And that's the difference between the alluvial and the hard rock, right? But when you first start, a lot of people don't understand that. So they see big piles of waste rock and they then go, oh, that's definitely going to have exactly what I want in it. I'm going to smash that with my detector, and it just doesn't work. So if you see big piles of river rock, they're almost always worthless in terms of gold. Sometimes you'll find a really, really cool relic, but that'll be about it. Yeah. And then, but when it comes to hard rock mollicutes, oh man, yeah, get in there. And don't be afraid to take soil samples home with you either. Like fill a bag up with dirt and then wash it, because if you get gold out of that, then it's worth bringing things like dry blowers and stuff back, or even little rock crushers to further process those mine dumps, just because there will be, there will be decent bits of gold in there. All right, I've got heaps and heaps and heaps of people on Facebook, so I'm going to switch back to there. James A. Churchill, 1,000 stars, buddy. Thank you so much. I've got heaps of people sending me stars on Facebook. Thank you all so much for the support, guys. It means the absolute world to me. I wish I could talk about it. Something happened today that is really cool, that this is going to all help with. It'll become clear in the near future, I think. But I'm dying. I want to tell you, but I can't. Shut up, Chris. Just move on. George, what is my main job? This, bro. This is what I do. I used to manage supermarkets at night. I was a night shift manager. And then I worked at a service station doing exactly the same thing. I did night management for a servo down in Melbourne. And then I moved up here and I opened an archery range, because it's something I've been doing forever. And I became a coach for Archery Australia. And I ended up coaching a state and national champion. We set a few world and state records, which was really cool and super exciting. But then PTSD and all that sort of stuff just came in and took all that away from me. And I ended up on YouTube and gold prospecting as a method of reconnecting with the bush, because I lost that through fear. I lost that through Black Saturday and the Alpine fires. I went through 3 major bushfires in the space of about 10 years, and it just took its toll. And I lost my interest and enthusiasm for going out into the bush. And when that happened, I had to find a way to get back into it. And I was very lucky that a family friend of ours was into gold prospecting, and he took me out, and he was really gentle and he was really kind with me, and he reintroduced me into it. And so I started filming it, because film was something that I always dabbled in, and I found it really useful as sort of a diary. I found it really useful to be able to look back at my videos and say, hey, I remember what was going on then. Do you remember doing this? It's basically a visual diary. And so I was doing it for that reason, but obviously it connected with people, and I shared my story on it and whatnot. Again, more as a diary thing than sharing it. And now we're here. So I do YouTube, and I do YouTube, and I do gold prospecting, and I've got a couple of other projects like side businesses and stuff that I do. And my other job is I am also a carer. So I care. I don't want to go into too much detail about that. But I care for someone full time, and that's the other part. So there's a lot on. I don't. It's a busy man, very, very busy man. I just seen Don Wendon, SDC 2300, first run tomorrow, wide open for tips. Okay, go straight to setting 5. It's the number one tip. Go straight to setting 5. So put it on 2. Turn it on. Once it does all its beeping and stuff and it stops and you get the constant threshold, turn it all the way up to 5, ground balance that sucker, and then put the coil on the ground. It's got a skid plate for a reason. Make it touch, and then just scrape it on the ground and go slow, because the faster you go, the less time that threshold has to respond. So really nice and slow. And just make sure the coil is in contact with the ground on setting 5, and dig it won't give you a false signal, especially where you are. It's not going to false out on a hot rock or something like that. As soon as it goes, whoo, dig it. Just friggin' dig it. The other thing is, don't leave the battery compartment closed for a long period of time. Like when you finish your detecting session, open your battery compartment and collapse the telescopic pole, because that's where, when we talked to MindLab about the SDCs, they said the 2 main things that people do is that they leave the battery compartment closed, it compresses the springs, and eventually they wear to a point where you'll get the batteries shifting and it falses, which is not ideal. It's really annoying because it turns off and then turns back on straight away, and you have to wait for it to cycle through again. And the telescopic pole, it stretches the wires out in that pole. And if you leave it stretched out and then in a hot car or wherever, eventually those wires start degrading because they've been left stretched, and then they break. So you want to make sure that's collapsed, battery compartment's open. And buy yourself some lithium batteries because it cuts 1/4 of a kilo out of that detector. It's definitely worth it. Oh, and set your threshold. So you cycle through on your threshold button until you just get the lowest continuous threshold. So I think there's 10 settings, and you'll scroll through half a dozen of them, and they'll be really, really loud threshold settings. And then you'll cycle back to the first one, and it might be really sketchy. You might be going, but then you'll go up 1 or 2, and then that will even out. And once it evens out, the first level it evens out on, that's where you leave it. And you do that every time you turn your machine on. Shannon Stokes, 50 stars. Thank you very much. Mark, I am near Aubrey. I'm usually up for meetups and stuff when I'm out here. It highly depends on schedules. So don't be offended if I say no, it's not that. It's just that I'm busy like a lot of the time. So if you send me a message on Facebook or whatever, and we'll go from there. Right, we're gonna flip back over to YouTube. Man, one person. Trevor, what's going on? Yeah, man, I just seen Trevor's comment, Beefy. I'm guessing it's Beefy Preffer. Are you here, Beefy? I have over 20,000 unread messages. He's actually not wrong. He's legitimately not wrong. I have a lot. I was trying to get you a number, but it was not showing me. It just says 99 plus, and I know it's way more than that. Mike Bogey, Fern is great. She's really good. She's teething bad at the moment. She's lost all of her front bottom small teeth except for one, and that one's coming out. She's chewing on everything. And, yeah. Sean Felton, what's the longest dry spell I've ever had? I have never been skunked. I have never, ever, ever, ever been skunked. I've had really bad days. Like I've come away with like 1 or 2 specks, but I've never been skunked. There was one day, I made a video about this. There was one day I had a dream, and I dreamt about this creek that was meant to be behind a vineyard in my area. And I know this area, and I was like, I know the vineyard, so obviously that made sense. And I didn't know there was a creek behind it. And I get on Google Maps the next morning because it's so vivid. When I checked the Google Maps, like, oh, there is a gully there. There's a tight little gully, short little like creek, and there was a creek marked on Google Maps. I'm like, all right, I'll go there. We'll go have a look. So I drove up there. I parked. There's no mine workings or anything. There's mine workings in the area, but not on that creek. And I got there and I was like, oh, yeah, it looks dry too. So there wasn't really much hope. And I get up there and there's a little puddle of water, and the puddle of water is like the size of a table, right? But it's shallow. There was a crevice off to the side of this puddle, so I scratched the crevice out and I panned it out, and I got 2 nice pickers. I got 2 really, really nice coarse pickers. They weren't big, but they were like chunky and I was blown away. That was probably the most random way I've ever found gold. And Gadsy and we're going back there because of that. We were only talking about that the other day. Graham McKenzie, yeah, steel phase booster. So I was getting a few questions about that. The steel phase booster on detectors, I think, is a pretty valuable tool because we all have different hearing abilities, right? So all the booster does is filters noise. So you can change the volume either up or down, and you can sort of change the level at which that volume is played. I know that doesn't make much sense. It's the only way I can describe. I'm doing a shit job of this. That ability means you can tune it into your hearing, and it makes targets stand out really, really well. So as far as I know, as long as you can get the connection from that to your headphones, you can plug it into any machine you want. It's probably not worth it with the Monster because of the way it works, but any constant threshold machine like the Goldbug, any of the Mind Lab like SDC 45s, 6000s, or some of the macro series, anything with a constant threshold could be definitely worth your time going and investing in one of them. Chris has a small wee. Hi, Paulie. Nuh-uh. 2 Chocolate Tuesdays, Paulie. Do you remember that? 2 Chocolate Tuesdays, or riding a bike. Paulie remembers about riding a bike, but I'm not allowed to talk about that. So... West, why do I need weapons out where? Dogs? Nah, I don't need weapons. A lot of people talk faster than their hands can move. That's all I'll say about that. So you don't need weapons. What's the coolest non-gold thing I've found in a pan? A fish. I found a pan of fish once by accident, and a spoon. Actually, that's coming up in a video soon. I dug a spoon up the other day. That was pretty cool. That was a fun little trip. Trevor wants me to go back to night managing so I can do 89x game in my my live stream channel. Beefy, okay, I've finally seen your message. I have finally seen your message. Yeah, that creek that you're on, the boulders. So, okay, we'll give you some examples, guys. This is going to be a place that is common for a lot of people. When you're on a creek, not a river, not a really big river. We're talking about a creek that might only be 5 meters wide at its widest point or something like that. When you get to these places and you see a flat-ish area with a little bit of a drop off at one end, so it'll be like a steep gully or something, and the water comes raging out, and then it gets wider and relatively flat, and then it drops off a little bit at the other end, and you get a run of boulders through that area. You'll see heaps and heaps of really big rocks, like, basketball-sized pieces, or maybe a little bigger, and mixed in with all sorts of cobble and whatnot. A lot of people think that has been laid in there by the creek, but generally speaking, and again, highly dependent on your creek, but generally what I found is that those creeks don't have enough water energy to move boulders that big into that sort of position. And what you're actually looking at is the result of erosion. So what I mean by that is that the water has been fast enough to strip away all the soil from around the biggest rocks that was contained within that soil. Now, you might have seen some of my recent videos where I pulled out some really good gold. I pulled out gold that was chunky and coarse, and a lot of people were saying it was from the upturned tree that was next to me. But that wasn't the case, because we tested, we do a lot of testing off camera that you guys don't get to see. What it was is that the water had come around a corner upstream really hard. It was a very narrow gully, and it was flooding to like 18 meters deep in this gully. And it was coming out to this big wide section. And as it did that, it was eroding this dirt bank. Now, this dirt bank had a drift mine in it. And that drift mine had been sunk, obviously, by the old timers quite some time ago, all the way down to the bedrock. But that drift mine was not the original creek area. And what they were looking for was how good or how payable the gold was in the gravels on that bedrock. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the beautiful part, right? When that water came out of that canyon and it was really fast and it slowed down and started eroding that bank gradually, it took all the crap away and basically sluiced our dirt for us. So the only thing that was left on the ground was big boulders, the heaviest of heavy gravels, ironstone, and gold. And it was a thin layer. So, Beefy, here's your answer. Those areas will have pay streaks running through them where the water has concentrated that pay line. So your job is to take samples running across those gravel bars. Forget about looking behind the rocks and forget about all that sort of stuff. Just draw a line across 3 or 4 different points on that bar and sample them within like every 2 to 3 feet. So take a hole, 2 feet, take a hole, 2 feet, take a hole, and see what happens on the surface. And don't worry about finding mad gold on the surface. If you can find 1 or 2 specks on the surface and you only get those 1 or 2 specks in a couple of spots and everything else is nothing or very little, and your black sands or your ironstone go up, that's when you start digging deeper in those test holes to see if you can find a silt or a clay layer or bedrock. And that the surface flood stuff is usually where you're going to start finding the good deposits deeper down, simply because, like I said, it's sluiced the dirt for you. So everything is on the bottom. That's my take on what you were sending me those pictures of. I tried calling you like 3 times. It just didn't work, did it? I'm just having more read on YouTube, guys. Man, everyone's sending me stars on Facebook. Thank you so much. Ewan, James Churchill, Elise and Lee, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Joe, if you're downstream from an active gold mine anywhere in the creek, it doesn't matter. Just test everything. Test the sand, test the gravel, test the bedrock. Yeah. Adam, there are creeks in the northeast of Victoria that give way more black sand than Reedy Creek. So Adam's saying you should go to Adlong Falls and see the black sands there. I know what you're talking about. I literally know what you're talking about. There's a creek in my area that shall remain unnamed. And damn it, Paulie. He's on Facebook saying I got a big wee wee, not a small one. Trevor, where are you? Kick Paulie out. Yeah, there's a creek in my area that has heaps of black sand, like you're saying, 5 times, 10 times more than what Reedy Creek does, and none of it's magnetic, which is just great. Scroll. I care about Mick Simon. Come on. Brendan, I'm just trying to understand your question. With using the river sluices lately, what's the best tip setting up in bigger rivers? Oh, okay, yeah. You basically, I have found that making a wing dam works. So I just run a big series of rocks out from the bank in basically a straight line to funnel more water off to one side, and then I start putting in a V dam of big rocks and putting my sluice in the middle of that. Hopefully that makes sense. Steve, I've never been up to Queensland for gold prospecting, only for a bit of fun. Kim, okay, so here's the thing about hot rocks. So Kim's asking any tips for the gold monster with heaps of hot rocks. First and foremost, I'll argue about this all day long, right? There are people out there like LDC Prospecting who run the gold monster on their manual sensitivity settings, and God bless them for doing it, because they will get slightly smaller gold, right? They will find pieces that sometimes in auto settings you won't. But I don't have the patience for that, to be honest. It's like I look at it very simply. If I have the ability to go panning, I don't want to be finding the same size gold with a metal detector. I'd rather find 20 of those pieces in one pan as opposed to one of those pieces after 20 minutes with a metal detector. So I run mine in Auto Plus, usually Auto Plus 2, the most sensitive auto setting, because it gives you, it doesn't, honestly, it doesn't reduce the sensitivity that much, but what it does do is it reduces the amount of bullshit that you end up digging. So hot rocks are one of those things too that you have to make sure that they don't contain some gold. All hot rocks are worth keeping. I found about 40% of my hot rocks contain at least a little bit of fine free mill gold, because the minerals that set off your metal detector in a hot rock are the same minerals that are associated with gold in reefing areas. So keep them all and crush them at home anyway. If they're giving you a good signal. But otherwise, I just run mine in Auto 2, and that cuts out a lot of the ones that genuinely are just annoying rocks. Jesse Norris, mate, I wish I could find a way to help deal with my PTSD. Look, I could not agree with you more. To be honest, it's an absolute pain in the ass. You know what I was doing today was, oh man, all right, let's do some deep sharing. Yeah. Hey Fernie, I go through stages where my brain starts talking to me like, you don't have PTSD. Stop being a little Jesse. Stop being like a sook and get out there and do the things. These symptoms aren't even real. Blah, blah, blah. It just gets at you like, you don't have PTSD. And it hammers the crap out of you, right? And I found myself today doing a test. I found myself doing a test off a government website for symptoms of ADHD, because I was like, something's got to be wrong with me. If I don't have PTSD, why do I feel like it's so dumb? Like, I know it's so dumb. And anyway, I remember reading about this, and this was my justification for doing this test, was that a lot of ADHD symptoms can present, can be get your head around this, Chris. People can get misdiagnosed with ADHD who actually have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So there's a difference between CPTSD and PTSD. PTSD is you've had a car accident or you saw a workplace injury or something like that, and it's a one-off event, and you come out with a case of PTSD. Complex PTSD is multiple major traumas over an extended period of time. And when you get complex PTSD, a lot of the symptoms present as ADHD symptoms. And so one of the things that I've learned from that is that the acceptance that something might not be right with how you manage stresses is very important. You can't underestimate the fact that your brain has now been rewired to adversely affect how you deal with problems. And that's not to say that it's not fixable, right? But the recognition of that is very important, because if you deny that nothing's wrong with you and if you fight that, you're going to delay your ability to get help. It's like PTSD is a lot simpler to fix than complex PTSD because you're only having to fix one event. Complex PTSD takes a lot longer, and I think that's what a lot of people who I've met doing the advocacy work that I do have. They have the complex version, not the one-off event. So there's not going to be one cure for it. But if you recognize that you have it and that it is adversely affecting your life or the life of people around you, then taking the next steps towards getting help is the next most important thing you can do. And that seems really daunting as well, because there's a lot to learn. But like anything, like exercise or saving, it comes one thing at a time. Hey. We've got a dog after mice down here. Mice plague. It comes one step at a time. You can't rush into it. You can't be cured in a week. You're not going to be cured in a month. You might not be cured in a year, but you will see progress through that whole time. And you'll see progress by going into this open-minded. So the first one is just finding a counselor who does something like EMDR or cognitive behavioral therapies as opposed to talking therapy. Talking therapy is the worst thing you can basically do for complex PTSD because you end up reliving the traumas, and that's not what you want to do. You want to move on from that. So cognitive behavioral therapies and EMDR and somatic experiencing and things like that, they can help you. They won't help you overnight, but they will help you. So you got to find someone who practices them that you connect with, and that's your first step. And then you just go on your journey from that. Once you find that person that you connect with, you just keep at it, right? You go to the sessions, you do the homework they give you, and what you'll find is one day you'll wake up and that cloud of bullshit won't be hanging over your head. So, yeah, I hope that made sense. I've experienced some crap over the last couple of months. I've actually had some really bad depressive episodes, and I don't know if for the people on YouTube here right now, I'm just having a look at who we've got actually in this room, because I know a lot of people on Facebook will have seen the post I did on this is what I was talking about with the symptoms for ADHD, the forgetfulness and all that sort of stuff. This is just one of them. This just happened then. A lot of people on Facebook will have seen the short videos I did talking about what depression is and how it is not mutually exclusive from happiness. So I'm going to explain that quickly for the people on YouTube. Depression happens simultaneous to happiness. So first and foremost, if you've never experienced depression or you don't think it's real, it's not sadness. And I'll give you an example. I wake up in the morning and I go, hey, this is going to be a fantastic day. I'm going to go out to the creek and I'm going to pan some gold in a spot that I know has really good gold. And Fern is behaving really well today. And Zoe said that we're going out for dinner tonight. And hey, it's my birthday and I just got this mad present that I can't wait to go out and use. So I have everything going for me. You know what I should do? Kill myself about it. That is what depression is. Now, it might not be the extreme of kill myself, right? You don't actually mean that. That's not what I'm talking about. But that's the thought process that goes into it. It's like you cannot separate out being singularly happy and singularly sad. You're both at once. Well, not sad, but it's the self-talk. So I think a lot of people have this sort of self-talk thing in their head where they berate themselves. So like I said before, I've got everything going for me and it's my birthday, but on the other side, I'm a loser who doesn't deserve to have a beautiful partner. And why should I go out to the creek? Because I won't find any gold. Like that's that self-talk that happens at the same exact time that all the positive stuff happens. And it's really wearing. So normally what happens is when you're full of energy and you're up and you've had a good week, you can deal with that. Those thoughts come in and you're like, bugger off. Like, no, like they still come, but you can ignore them or tell them to go away. When you are tired because you've had a really hard week at work or your relationship isn't going so well, or your dog just died or your car broke down or whatever the external stressor is that eventually wears you down to the point where you are tired, those voices come in and they start dominating. And when they start dominating, it gets imbalanced to the point where you don't want to get out of bed because the only thing you can think about is, oh, what's the point of getting up because I suck at making toast? Like that's what it's like to be depressed, at least for me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people out there can understand that. Now, it's so important that I feel that's so important that I explain that because there's a lot of people they reckon only 10% of people in the world have some sort of depression or anxiety. That's just, yeah, that is the statistic. So there's a lot of people out there who have never experienced it on a chronic level like I have and like a lot of other people have. And I don't want to sound like a whining little give up about it because I'm not. That's not what this is about. I have been fighting hard for people who suffer through the same stuff as what I have, and I want to give them the benefit of my experience from it. So if I can explain that in a way that people who don't have depression can understand, and they can then look at their partner or their son or their daughter and give them a next level of understanding in their lives, it might just save a couple of lives. It might just help some people get out of their holes. So if you have someone in your life who is depressed and whatnot, they're not trying to be annoying. They're really not. In fact, it's the opposite. It's very hard to take someone who's depressed out and show them a good time because they will fight you on it. But I guarantee you they'll be appreciating it as well. So just try and give that a bit of a go. Dale's son, do you support 420? Hell yeah, bro. Australia is very slow and everything like that, though. Like we had to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on referendums for gay marriages, like multiple years after the USA legalized it and whatnot. Weed's going to take a long time to legalize. All right. That was a long rant. Sorry about that, guys. I do apologize. Scrolling up and having a look. Trevor, you're not a mod on my Facebook, so you can't boot Paulie. God damn it. Paulie's over here calling me a big weenie and stuff. All right, I'll answer a couple more questions, guys, and then I'll call it just because it has been an hour and my voice has decided to leave me. Oh, okay. Glenroy Masling, what's your rating on the turbo pan? The short answer to that is that I don't like the turbo pan that much. I'm sorry that you've bought one and now I've told you that, but I don't like it that much. And it's simply because it really overly complicates something that is quite simple and makes it more difficult. So you can just, like, you could go out to the creek with a wok, fill it with dirt, shake the crap out of it underwater, scrape all the dirt off the top with your hand, scoop out the cons at the bottom, transfer that to like a dog bowl and do your final clean out. And it would be easier than using the turbo pan just because of the way that they're designed. It's an interesting concept. It's just not executed very well. Gallon per hour pump for, Billy Haynes, what is the number of gallons per hour pump for a river sluice at home or in camp? I use a 2,000 gallon an hour pump, but with a speed controller from Washington Beach Mining, so you can fine tune and adjust it. Going down, reading on Facebook. I'm speed reading here, guys. So I've probably missed a lot because I just went on a woo tangent there before. Andrew Dannett, 150 stars. Thank you very much. All right, let's flick back over to YouTube because I didn't see any questions there. Reading. Where does gold come from? Paulie, I don't know where gold comes from. Unicorn butts. No, the spider on the river. You know what I'm talking about. Reveal your secrets. Paulie knows exactly why. Actually, Paulie knows exactly why and how much gold you're going to get before you even go out. I guarantee it, because of the spider. The spider on the river, on your claim. I've got video footage. I've got proof. Don't you lie. All right. Janine Godfrey, what angle should I run my cleanup sluice with V-matting? Highly depends on what kind of material you're running. I usually start mine at about 4 degrees and then put my pump on about a quarter speed, so 500 gallons an hour, something like that, and then adjust as needed. Sometimes you get migration there, which you don't want, and sometimes you don't get enough black sands and stuff cleaning off the top. Gold comes from eucalyptus trees. John, that's a good question. Does gold move differently at higher and lower water temperatures? I don't know, but it's interesting because it would change the friction levels and stuff. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I'll get back to you next live stream. Just remind me. Do I play guitar? No, I do not, Roz. Have I tried the banjo pan? No, I haven't. Eric, 500 stars. Jesus, mate. Thank you so much. All right. Metal or plastic potato pan from Jason. Metal one all the way. The Aussie gold one for the guys in Australia. I like the Fonty. That's probably his best one. Otherwise, the Placid Designs one is mint. That's my favorite one. Scott, no, I haven't thought of a centrifuge for fine gold recovery. I think it's just as easy. Like we overcomplicate things a lot when it comes to gold prospecting. Sticking to basic equipment is usually really good. So I use the same river sluice to do my cleanups as I do to process the dirt on the river. I just change the matting. All right. And Simon Cook, have you ever heard the north-south reef theory? Yes, I have. I believe this is the one. Now, I'm talking from my area, and this is the theory that I've heard. It may be different to your one. That basically Tasmania pulled away from the mainland, and it created fractures or faults running north-south as it pulled away. And then there's also east-west ones. And so the east-west, I believe north-south contain gold in my area, and east-west in Bendigo, because of that reason. That's the rough theory. I'm going to go with that. Like, that's the theory that I know of anyway. Getting there. I just tried my micro dream mat. It did okay. You're going to have to rephrase that question. I don't understand the last part of the question, bro. Jesse James, our borders, there was talk as late as 2024 to open. So I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea, bro. Oh, Dan Hurd's in the house. What's going on, Dan? Dan! Bro, got Paulie and Dan in here. Someone wake Shane up. I just plugged your channel earlier, Dan. I promise. Everyone can vouch for that. Trevor can vouch for that. He's a moderator, so you can believe him. Eston, snakeskin on the XP pans is probably the best invention in pans that I have seen in a long time, to be honest, because holy crap, it works well. It is really cool. It's like having a little Miller table on the side of your pan that gives you that peace of mind that you can get rid of a lot of the stuff, like a lot of the black sands and galena and whatnot out of your pan that you don't have to worry about. Wayne, no, I do not have any interest in making gold rigs for my finds, but that's sort of because I've got this idealistic view that when I die, my will be a treasure map and there'll be literally buried treasure somewhere. I'm just holding out hope that I'm going to live long enough for that to happen. Jason, am I planning on doing a trip with Dan and Paulie? Man, Paulie was meant to be over last year, and then our borders shut like a week before he was meant to arrive. And then I've wanted to go back to BC and prospect over in Canada again ever since I was over there with Paulie. It was so much fun. And now I know more and have more experience. I'd love to go back there and do that sort of thing. All right. Well, I think we might just I think I might just call that right there because my voice has completely gone. We're just over the hour. I'll answer one more question. Am I getting the thunder here? Yeah. Yes, I am. It's finally starting to rain here. It was meant to be raining all day, but it's only just started now. All right, cool. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for everyone joining in. I haven't done one of these in ages. As I said, I've been going through some really bad depressive episodes, and I've just been struggling with that. So I do apologize for being slow and whatnot. You may have seen a bit of a change in content and things, but we're managing it. It happens. It's one of those things that we deal with, and then we move on. And as long as I can share that story with you guys and hopefully get some of you guys the help that you may need, then that makes this worthwhile. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to this live stream. I'm going to go rest my voice. I hope you guys have a safe one out there. Please, look after your families, look after yourself, enjoy your prospecting, scratch your dog behind the ears. I'm going to press the end on the stream. Peace, guys. Button. Pew. And